Hallo und herzlich willkommen bei whisky.de, dem Treffpunkt feiner Geister. Und ich stehe hier in einem wunderschönen Morgen in einem kleinen schottischen Wald. Und hier in der Gegend hat sich 1263 eine sehr interessante Geschichte abgespielt, in genau so einem kleinen schottischen Wald. Und zwar war der damalige schottische König Alexander III. Auf einer Jagdgesellschaft. Und da wurde dann der König von einem angreifenden 12-Ender-Hirschen angegriffen. Und damals gab es eben einen sehr, sehr mutigen Mann vom Mackenzie-Clan und der hat dem König das Leben gerettet. Ich glaube, er hat mit einem Speer im letzten Moment diesen Hirschen erlegt. Und da war der König dann so dankbar, dass er dem Mackenzie-Clan das Recht gegeben hat, den königlichen 12-Ender-Hirschen als ihr Wappen oder als ihr Zeichen zu verwenden. Das war damals eine riesige Ehre. Und die Mackenzies haben später dann dieses Recht wahrgenommen und die Flaschen dann auf ihre Whiskyflaschen drauf gemacht. Und da kommen wir dann wieder zum Whisky rüber. Und dieses Zeichen trägt heutzutage immer noch die Dalmore Brennerei und auch alle Dalmore Flaschen. Ja, Dalmore wurde 1839 gegründet durch einen etwas zwielichtigeren Mann, und der hat nämlich sein Geld durch den Opiumhandel im fernen Osten verdient. Also da war das British Empire schon vereinigt, und der hat dann ganz viel Handel betrieben und sehr, sehr viele zwielichtige Geschichten und hat sich dann irgendwann eine Brennerei gebaut und gegründet mit dem Geld, was er eben durch Drogenhandel verdient hat. Später ist dann irgendwann der Pachtvertrag für die Brennerei übergegangen auf den Mackenzie-Clan, und sein Sohn hat dann, der Sohn des Opiumhändlers, hat dann irgendwann die Brennerei an 3 Mackenzie-Brüder verkauft, und die haben dann die Brennerei betrieben, und die waren dann auch diejenigen, die eben diesen Hirschen als Symbol verwenden durften. Das ging so über die Jahre relativ gut. Dalmore war eine der sehr, sehr, sehr großen Brennereien damals. Ich werde da ein bisschen später nochmal drauf eingehen, wenn wir über die Brennblasen sprechen. Und was es aber über die Jahre auch noch gab, war 1917, also schon relativ am Ende des Ersten Weltkrieges, wurde die Brennerei dann eingesetzt, um Tiefseeminen herzustellen. Also es war sehr praktisch, weil die Brennerei war am Wasser und es war in geschützten britischen Gewässern. Da konnte man sehr schön Minen produzieren. Aber die Minenproduktion, vor allem damals, war sehr gefährlich, und 1920 ist so eine Mine explodiert. Also die Royal Navy hat da irgendwo Mist gebaut, und dann ist eine Mine explodiert und hat die gesamte Brennerei zerstört. Und das war dann ein Riesenrechtsstreit zwischen eben Mackenzie und der Royal Navy. Und das ist wirklich hochgekocht. Damals hat es einen Rechtsstreit über ein halbes Jahrzehnt gegeben. Und das ging sogar vors House of Lords. Und ich weiß nicht, ob er Recht bekommen hat oder teilweise Recht bekommen hat. Normalerweise ist das dann immer irgendwo so ein Deal. Aber auf jeden Fall wurde die Brennerei 1922 dann wieder eröffnet und hat dann wieder weiter produziert. Später, 1960, ist dann die Mackenzie Limited mit White & Mackay fusioniert und ist dann mittlerweile jetzt in einem größeren Konglomerat mit mehreren Brennereien vereint. Ja, und jetzt genug gesagt über die Geschichte. Wir schauen uns jetzt mal ein bisschen die Produktion an. Die Zutaten jedes Whiskys bestimmen natürlich immer auch den Output und die Qualität des Whiskys. Wir haben 2 wichtige Zutaten, die ganz am Anfang in den Whisky reinkommen. Das erste ist das Wasser. Das Wasser bekommt die Dalmore Brennerei aus dem Fluss Avron, der entspringt aus einem der Lochs in den etwas höher gelegenen Regionen, etwas zentraler in den Highlands. Und das Loch Moray. Da gibt es eine sehr schöne Zeichnung gegenüber der Mash Tun, dass man weiß, ja, wo das Wasser herkommt. Fließt dann eben durch den Fluss Avon runter und wird dann von der Brennerei aufgenommen und in der Mash Tun verwendet. Das Malz wird in der alten Mash Mill geschrotet und es kommt aus lokalen Großmalzereien. Also es wird auch sehr, sehr viel hier auf der Black Isle angebaut. Also es wird auch regionales Malz verwendet. Ja, die Mash Tun wird mit 10,4 Tonnen Malzschrot befüllt und in 3 Maischvorgängen wird dann der Zucker und die Stärke aus dem Malz rausgewaschen. Das ist sie haben einen relativ normalen Vorgang, also sie schauen, dass sie kein richtig voll klares Wort haben, sondern sie sind ein bisschen auf der cloudy Seite. Aber hier bei Dalmore schaut man darauf, dass man einen qualitativ hochwertigen und recht gut ausbalancierten Whisky produziert. Also sind sie relativ weit in der Mitte, nicht bei sehr trüben Wort, sondern eher so ein leicht trübes Wort. Und dann schauen wir uns das Ganze an, wie dann der Alkohol entsteht. Die Dalmore Brennerei hat 8 hölzerne Washbags und sie werden mit 45.000 Litern befüllt. Das Schöne daran hier ist, mit den hölzernen Washbags gibt es immer ein gewisses mikrobiologisches Klima, was einen sehr interessanten Geschmack im Whisky produziert. Und mit interessant meine ich jetzt nicht schlecht, sondern einen schönen Charakter produziert. Denn die Fermentation ist nicht nur alkoholische Fermentation, man hat auch laktobakterielle Fermentation und da leben gewisse Bakterien im Holz und die fördern das Ganze. Was man für laktobakterielle Fermentation braucht, ist aber Zeit. Und man sagt so ab 48 Stunden oder ab ein bisschen weniger, sogar 45 Stunden, sagt man, ist alles durchfermentiert alkoholisch, aber danach geht nochmal die laktobakterielle Fermentation weiter und es entstehen schöne fruchtige Charakter. Bei Dalmore hat man so 50 Stunden Fermentationszeit. Und da versucht man auch wieder so einen gewissen ausbalancierten Charakter zu erreichen. Man will schon malzig, fruchtig haben, aber ein bisschen robuster als der typische nordländische Highland-Style. Der ist ja eigentlich eher so weich, fruchtig und zitrusartig. Und hier geht man ein bisschen davon weg und sagt, wir wollen ein bisschen mehr ausbalanciert haben, wir wollen ein bisschen robuster haben. Ja. Es wird Hefe zugesetzt, Flüssighefe, und nach 50 Stunden hat man dann ca. 8% Alkohol in diesem Bier und das geht dann weiter zum Brennen des Whiskys. So, das hier ist jetzt das Brennhaus von Dalmore. Und wir haben insgesamt 8 Stills. Und was auch noch mal ganz besonders ist, was wir euch jetzt hier einblenden werden, ist der Wash Charger. Der Wash Charger bei Dalmore ist wirklich sogar ein riesiger hölzerner Behälter aus Oregon Pine, der dann auch 45.000 Liter Kapazität hat. Diese 45.000 Liter sind so ausgelegt, dass alle Wash Stills damit befüllt werden. Also jeder Batch von den Washbags befüllt alle Wash Stills, also ungefähr ein Viertel. Die Brennerei hat Wash Stills in 2 Größen. Wir haben nämlich den alten Teil und wir haben den neuen Teil. Diese alten Brennblasen sind sehr alt noch. Und was sehr interessant ist, sie sind oben flach. Und man sagt, dass sie oben flach sind, weil man sie beim Bau der Brennerei oben abschneiden musste, weil sie nicht durch die Tür gepasst haben. Ja, oder weil die Decke einfach zu niedrig war. Was dabei rauskommt, ist, wenn man sie oben abschneidet und an der Seite den Leinarm dran macht, man kriegt eine ganze Menge Reflux und das erhöht den Kupferkontakt. Denn in der Wash Still ist es recht egal, ob man Reflux hat für die Auslegung des Brands. Aber der Kupferkontakt ist auch etwas, was bei der Wash Still sehr, sehr viel Auswirkungen hat. Deswegen viel Kupferkontakt, weniger Schwefel im Brand und deswegen weniger von den krassen, würzigen Geschmäckern. Dann schauen wir uns mal die Spirit Still an. Die alte Spirit Still, diese Spirit Still, ist von 1874. Natürlich nicht die ganze Spirit Still, aber Teile von dieser Spirit Still wurden noch nicht ausgetauscht. Unten wurde sicher schon mehrere Male der Boden ausgetauscht, weil durch das Kochen wird natürlich das Kupfer auch, reagiert dort auch und muss regelmäßig in Jahrzehntenabständen muss da irgendwas ausgetauscht werden. Aber zum Beispiel der Cooling Jacket ist immer noch original 1874. Also eine der ältesten Brennblasen, die es überhaupt gibt. Die neuen Brennblasen sind etwas größer. Sie wurden 1966 gebaut und die großen Wash Stills haben eine Kapazität von 16.000 Litern, während die alten eine Kapazität von 13.000 Litern haben. Das haben sie aber so gemacht, dass alle Verhältnisse gleich sind und um möglichst den gleichen Brand zu bekommen. Jedoch muss man immer noch einstellen, dass man die Brennblasen etwas anders fährt, damit man überall den richtigen Rohbrand rausbekommt. Die kleineren Stills haben dann weniger, 8.000 Liter Volumen. Und das Interessante an diesen Stills sind die Wassermäntel. Also hier kann man es am schönsten sehen. Da werden wir euch einen kleinen Cut-In reinmachen. Und da kann man sehen, die Brennblase geht innen hoch und außenrum sitzt ein Wassermantel. Und in diesem Wassermantel geht dann noch ein Coil, eine Spirale durch, der dann dieses Wasser austauscht und von innen kühlt. Und das gibt eine Riesenmenge an Reflux, also eine Riesenmenge an Rückfluss. Und das bedeutet, wir haben einen feineren Brand. Jedoch, wenn man bei dieser Still sieht man, der Leinarm fällt. Das heißt, alles, was es einmal durch den Wassermantel geschafft hat, auch die würzigeren, schweren Teile, fließen raus und gehen in einen Kondenser. Und die Kondenser sind auch sehr interessant, weil wir haben normalerweise bei fast jeder Brennerei die stehenden Kondenser. Nur bei Dalmor haben wir einen liegenden Kondenser oder liegende Kondenser bei den Spirit Stills. Und das ist, um einen etwas heftigeren Brand zu bekommen. Man sagt so, die liegenden Kondensatoren, die sind ähnlicher zu Warm-Tubs als die stehenden. Ja. Was es dann auch noch gibt, ist, es sind sogar noch Stäbe innerhalb des Halses der Brennblasen, die auch noch mal kühlen. Und da muss man dann sagen irgendwann, okay, jetzt wird es langsam richtig kompliziert. Die Wartung dieser Brennblasen wird natürlich von Forsyth gemacht, aber die müssen regelmäßig hinkommen, weil das schon ein sehr kompliziertes Produkt ist. Und ja, es wird auch ganz schön einen Batzen Geld kosten, um das alles hier immer noch zu warten. Ja. Am Ende stellt man dann noch den Brand an. Wenn man sich so ein bisschen die Farbe der Brennblasen anschaut, dann wird hier nicht so heiß gebrannt. Also es wird eher ein Stückchen langsamer, normal gebrannt, sagen wir es mal so. Und am Ende stellen Sie den Rohbrand so ein, dass es ein richtig schöner, malziger, fruchtiger, robuster Rohbrand rauskommt. Also nicht ganz so ein leichter Highland-Style, sondern ein bisschen kräftigerer. Und jetzt gucken wir uns mal an, was mit dem Rohbrand dann in den Lagerhäusern gemacht wird. Ich stehe jetzt im Warehouse Nummer 4 und das hier ist so ein bisschen der Spielplatz von Richard Patterson, sein Lieblings-Warehouse, weil hier sind die interessantesten Fässer, die es bei Dalmor gibt. Und wenn man hier sich so umschaut, ist hier schon sehr, sehr, sehr viel Vielfalt bei Dalmor. Denn Dalmor ist bekannt für ihre besonderen Nachreifungen. Und alles kommt erstmal in ein normales Bourbonfass. Und dann haben wir natürlich verschiedene Nachreifungen für die verschiedenen Abfüllungen. Und das reicht von Methusalem Cask über sehr große Sherryfässer oder sehr große Portpipes bis hin zu Hogsheads oder eben die American Standard Barrels, also die Bourbonfässer. Hier neben mir habe ich auch noch ein besonderes Fass. Das sind nämlich, man sagt mir so, die ältesten Fässer. Und die sind, wenn man genau drauf schaut, von 1969. Also schon, was ist das dann, 52 Jahre alt. Und jetzt schauen wir mal, wie viel noch drin ist. Ja, also ein volles Fass bewege ich so auf jeden Fall nicht. Das ist schon leicht leerer, weil es natürlich über die Jahre verdunstet. Ja, wunderschöner Platz. Und ich habe mich ein bisschen umgeschaut. Hier gibt es wirklich eine sehr, sehr interessante Menge an Fässern. Und ja, ich denke, die werden jetzt hin und wieder hier noch ein bisschen eingeblendet in dem Video, dass man, und ja, und wir werden jetzt mal noch ein kleines Tasting machen mit dem Distillery Manager. Und da werden wir mal probieren, was jetzt aus diesem ganzen, aus dieser schönen Produktion für tolle Produkte rausgekommen sind. So, ja, das war's mit der Produktion und jetzt gibt es noch ein kleines Interview auf Englisch. So I'm sitting here with Mark Lancaster. You've been with White & McKay for 14 years and you are distillery manager here at Dalmore for over a year. So thank you very much for having us here.
Oh, you're welcome. Always nice to show the distillery off.
So 14 years of White & McKay, so how did you become distillery manager?
Well, I started out in the quality department for White & McKay, so I was working across all of the distilleries, analysing whiskies as well as the production processes. And from there led into production in other distilleries before last year taking on the role of manager here at Dalmore, where it's been a steep learning curve as both as in production but also as this kind of thing of talking to people about whiskies, a little bit different from being in a lab.
Yeah, it's nice, and we've seen all the distillery. It's a really nice distillery.
It is. We're very proud of it. It's a beautiful distillery.
Yes, but as a distillery manager, you're responsible for the production. We've seen a very steep increase in the last decade, let's say that way, for Dalmore whiskey, and sales are through the roof, prices are through the roof. I've had numerous times where I had to report records of selling Dalmore whiskies all around the world. How is the production keeping up?
So here at the distillery, we're obviously, we need to make as much Dalmore as we can at the moment, obviously. That being said, without compromising our quality.
Yeah, sure.
Everything has to make sure that our new make spirit that we make here at the distillery is entirely consistent with Dalmore's house style. We can't, and at the moment, all of our production goes to that house style to make sure that we can then mature our whiskies to produce the products that people are so wanting around the world.
Yeah, so all the new make, there's nothing that you give to White & McKay, all the Dalmore is single malt?
Everything produced at Dalmore Distillery goes to make Dalmore single malt whiskey.
Okay.
It never goes anywhere else. We can't, at the moment, we have, everything is to capacity at the moment.
Yeah. You need everything. Okay, so where we start?
Yes, we start with a 12-year-old.
12-year-old, okay.
So that's this one.
Oh, I'm with the end.
We've got the 12-year-old there. So this is the 12-year-old Dalmore is our the first entry in our principal collection. So this is matured the new make in first fill ex-bourbon barrels. All of the Dalmore's new make whiskey begins its life in ex-bourbon barrels. Following a number of years of maturation in there, it is then finished in a selection of sherry casks, Oloroso sherry casks, before then coming to bottling to produce this, and it's bottled at 40% ABV is the Dalmore 12. So obviously when you're nosing this, personally I prefer to go neat to begin with, and then I'll add some water which can open up some more of the flavours.
I can already smell it from here.
So you get some citrus and orange on the nose. There's a sweetness, there's the vanilla, which is from the background of the bourbon cask. It's a complex whiskey for its age, is the 12-year-old.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It has a bigger sherry influence as I can remember it.
It's a partial maturation actually for the 12-year-old, because not all of the whiskey is transferred into sherry cask. Only a portion of it, and then it's remixed back together again between the ex-bourbon and the sherry. Nice. So it's not overly influenced by the sherry. It gives a nice balance to the whiskey. Look at that then, and on the palate. And then again, you get the fruits, you get the orange, the kind of Seville orange flavour to it, with that backness, and again that sweetness in the background, which is the vanilla and the kind of almost toffee flavours. And then at the end, it finishes off with a dark chocolate, almost coffee, which is the depth that you get from the 12-year-old. And it's a stunning whiskey, which is a testament to our whiskey makers and the way they curate the casks for this one.
I always love to try the whiskeys at the distillery, because you just get the flavors that you just picked up during, let's say, fermentation or in the still house, in the warehouse, and you just find it in a different way in your glass.
Indeed. I mean, one of the things that's key to the Dalmore and the way that we curate the casks through maturation is you don't want to overwhelm the character of the distillery, that what we produce off the still. And if you nose the new make spirit that we produce here, you get there's a balance of there's maltiness, there's sweetness, there's fruitness. It's all within that new make, and you don't want to lose that. You want to enhance it through your maturation.
Oh, it's nice. Very nice.
It's there, and obviously on the neat. Then obviously, if you add water to it, then just that dilution then is going to open up some more flavors within there. Just take that the alcohol strength down, and you should then see a lot more of the fruit coming through there. The esters that are reduced.
Oh yeah, that is now a really fruity whiskey.
They then cool. There you go. Yeah, you get that real. Again, there's citrus. There's a little bit of red berry kind of through there as well. It just opens up different flavors as you dilute it. And the same on the palate. And again, that one you really. To me, when you dilute it, really that orange comes through quite heavily on there when you're tasting the 12-year-old.
Orange is quite prominent, yeah.
It's a good thing, and it's like you say, it's one of these very complex but very accessible whiskies as well.
It's nice. It's a nice juicy orange. You always, if you have olders or you have the more European and more dark sherry tone whiskies that have that zesty, but that is a juicy orange.
It's got that freshness to it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So I think I can remember a few years ago, we had a bit of a horror story for the news that Dalmore had to shut down production because of water shortage. I think it was just a week or two, something like that. So how is that going? Is that coming back, or how do you cope with that?
So obviously we try and take care of our water very carefully here at Dalmore. We've got responsibility to make sure that we're not utilising too much water, because we take all of our water that makes our whiskies from the River Avron here that flows through Alness, and make sure that everything that we then put out into the Firth as it comes through the distillery is not changed. We do get water shortages. We have processes now in place to mitigate that and reduce our water usage, but again, each and every single process we put in has to be very carefully managed so it doesn't affect the spirit character, but we can still continue production.
Okay, so you are countering that a little bit too.
A little bit on the countering of there, just to make sure that we can ensure that water supply. In fact, this year we managed to actually run all the way through the summer despite low water levels without impacting production. So they have been successful.
Nice. Yeah, I think I've heard that this region here up in the north is a bit like the drier region of Scotland.
Here in Alness, we are a little bit. We're in a rain shadow. Okay. Now, our water source is up in the mountains behind us, in the Navarra state, but we're still on the eastern end. So as the weather comes in off the Atlantic, a lot of the rain drops on the west, and not quite so much here. To be fair, we still have plenty of water. We're not in a water shortage.
You're on the sunny side of Scotland.
Maybe not sunny, dry, but not sunny.
So what's the second one we're going to taste?
Second one here, we've got the 15-year-old. So the 15-year-old is kind of the epitome of the Dalmore House style, is this one. So this, rather than, again, we start in ex-bourbon barrel, but rather than just a portion of it going into the sherry cask, on this one, all of it is then finessed in a range of Oloroso sherry casks. So this is going to give you a little bit more depth to it.
Wait, there's all sherry cask matured?
It's bourbon first, ex-bourbon first, but in the 12-year-old you take a portion into sherry and then bring them back. In the 15, this goes into a range of sherry casks, but all of it is within sherry cask before being bottled afterwards. So on this one you're going to get a little bit deeper. So the orange on this one, I'm thinking more of, you've got a...
is it sweeter? Oh, okay, this is
a little bit. It's more of a marmalade.
Yeah,
it's stewed orange almost. That kind of that gives you that one.
Does it have there's a bit of a PX in it? Yeah, or is it just a fail?
It gives you. There's a little bit of extra sweetness because there's that extra sherry influence. There's a little bit of there's a nuttiness to it. Now, this is again is coming through from the new make. It's almost crushed almonds you get in this one.
Oh, I love it. I think we had a live tasting with the exact same constellation, and I think that one was my favourite. Or was it the King? I'm not quite sure anymore.
It's very difficult to pick a favourite when you're tasting Dalmore. So here on the palate of this one again, it has again that orange flavour, but there's a lot more there is the sweet, but there's like a chocolate and a dark chocolate and a roast coffee almost in there, especially as it comes to the end of the palate. It's more of a rounded thing. It gives you extra sherry finesse, gives a little bit more depth in there, especially with the fruit and the sweetness of it.
Yeah, it has also a bit more impact, a bit more, maturity, a bit more age.
It's obviously spent a little bit more time.
More feels like a little bit more European oak and a little bit more, definitely more sherry influence.
There is, like I said, all of it is then matured there in the sherry. You do have that more of a sherry influence, and obviously the cask has a major influence, but you still don't lose that. You know it's Dalmore. You know it's not been overwhelmed by that.
So the orange, is that kind of a bit of a distillery character? Huh?
Yes, so orange and the kind of spice that you'll see there in this one especially, you get a little bit of kind of cinnamon spice almost at the end. So that orange and spice is characteristic of the Dalmore.
I don't know if it's just because I just was in the production side with the washbacks, but this time I feel a bit of a maltiness going on. Yeah, definitely. It's that kind of. It's almost biscuity. It's not raw malt. It's because it's if you get a very nice kind of sweet biscuit, it's got almost a little bit of that to the back of it as well. So it does. Again, these are multifaceted things. The great thing I love about Dalmore is you can try these every time, and obviously I've tried Dalmore many times. But there's always something new to find about it. I think I'll be drinking this until I'm 90 and I'll still be finding new flavours. I think they're even going to pay you to drink it.
I hope so that long, yeah.
Oh, I love it. I just water in your mouth. That's when you find a nice whiskey from you, when you yearn for more.
It is this thing. There's many of the distillery operators, the Stillman and Mashman who work here, will say that the 15 is their favourite. That's the one that they will go for. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with the 12. The 12 is a fabulous whiskey, but a lot of people will go that the 15 is their favourite.
And you just have a really nice sherry influence in it. And that brings me to my next question. So I've been to warehouse number 4 and I've seen so many different casks and so many, especially sherry casks and wine casks. So where do you get all these nice casks from?
Well, we source casks from all over the world, and obviously one of the main ways we do that is the decades of contacts and experience of Richard Patterson, our master whiskey maker, who can go to any winery in the world and they know who he is and they'll be able to welcome him there because they want to have their casks producing Dalmore whiskey. But we bring them. We have a long-standing exclusive relationship with González Baez in Spain. It's obviously for a lot of our sherry casks, but we source casks from all over the world. We're in competition with everybody else, obviously, but we at the Dalmore are lucky in the people that we have and the contacts that we have that we're able to source the best casks in the world, because when you make the best whiskey, you've got to have the best casks.
Yeah, I've heard the stories about the consumers complaining about the whiskey prices and all the whiskey producers complaining about the cask prices.
I think everyone complains about prices at some point, but that's the thing. If you want the best, sometimes you have to pay for it.
Yeah, the cask prices and the quality casks are really pricey these days. But
they can be, but they're worth it when you get a product out of it like that.
Definitely. So then we move on.
So we move on. This is the 18-year-old. So this one is slightly different again. This time, again, begins in first fill bourbon casks, but this time the extra maturation is transferred into exclusively Methuselah Oloroso sherry casks, exclusively from González Baez. So this is just one. These are aged sherries up to 30 years old that are in the cask before they come here for the 18-year-old. And
so wait, you have the cask made, then it's 30 years of Methuselah, and then it's 8.
Well, it's in sherry they use casks in different ways, but it will have 30-year-old sherries will have been held in these Methuselah sherry casks. They'll have been used for a long time in the bodegas as well, which gives a real depth of what the wood has absorbed from the sherry, which then allows the whiskey to take on some of those characteristics from the wood.
So these casks that I've seen are probably like, I don't know, 50 years old then?
Some of them depends. A lot of them. I mean, the bourbon casks that we use, the first fills, are obviously only a year old because that's all we can be used for bourbon in America. But then obviously the casks that we use red wine casks, sherry casks, port pipes that have been for decades in use or have had aged product put in them, even though they're newer casks. So it all depends on the
yeah,
cask. So
they can do cask finishes, or I think they have the. Aren't these the guys also with the Solera where you have the...
Indeed. So you put your new wine in the end, and it comes out at the end, and it's worked through all the barrels. So people have used those for decades. I mean, the ask of what you can do with an oak cask is fascinating. We could spend hours talking about that.
Oh, that is...
This one, again, it's beautiful. That sherry characteristic on this one that gives you this... Again, the orange is there. This time it's more a really rich kind of deep, juicy, almost blood orange that you get out of this one. There's the red fruit in there as well.
Oh, I love it. This one is like a lot of dried fruits and a lot of mature fruits and
it's very it's almost like a Christmas cake kind of
Christmas is that's always the end where you come to the Christmas flavors.
At the end there's a slight bitterness that again, that dark chocolate coffee, that slight bit there. There's a less of a maltiness than you find in the 15.
Yes, definitely. Now the cask flavors that really take over a little.
It's a little bit more in there on that one as well. And when you're on the palate on this. It's on this one you get the layers, and you can taste the sherry influence on this one, even though you still have that Dalmore House style. But it's again sweeter, a lot more of the fruit lead on the 18, as there is probably for the 12 and the 15. It's very rich and kind of unctuous kind of taste to that one, and then it finishes off in a long, lingering finish. It's a beautiful whiskey.
This is intense. This is really intense flavor.
This is one that you can sit and savour one for a long time. Yeah,
this is one of these drams where if you want to really get into the dram, then you have an evening of it.
Yes, this is not one for casual drinking, shall we say?
Yeah, definitely.
Then again, I wouldn't say any Dalmore is, to be honest.
Yeah, it depends on how you define casual drinking. If you sit near the fire and you're just having a good conversation, then
this would be
the perfect time for 15 or 12. Well, I would say that the 18. Yeah, on an 18 you should focus on the 18.
Yes, you need to focus on it there, because you've opened it up there with the water, you're going to find...
Oh, that makes it a bit lighter.
Yeah, a little bit lighter. The sweetness kind of backs off again. You get a little bit more of the background to the fore there, with the kind of almost tobacco. It's not smoke that you would have in peat. We don't do peat here at Dalmore, but there's that wood smoke, tobacco-y, leathery kind of thing coming through.
I want to say that. Yeah, it has some, I don't know, phenolic, smoky, something in it.
It's not phenolic, because we don't obviously do that, but it is just that little bit of kind of a slight kind of almost like an open fire.
Yeah, that remembrance of smoke.
It's just a little wisp, and again when you. Whereas bizarrely, when you're on the palate, opening it up really accentuates that fruit. You get a hit of that, the red fruit flavours, the berries coming through, almost like a blackberry compote almost. You get coming through on that one towards the end, which is a delicious thing.
A good explanation. Yeah, that is hitting it good. Oh, I like it. The 18. Oh, this time I like the 18 more than the 15. But we're not at the end yet.
We're not at the end yet. No.
Yeah. So I've seen the famous picture of the famous hunt, and I got cool information about the background, that there's the Scottish Cross in that picture, and they're worked in, and it's about loyalty and everything. So, but I've just walked into the woods for my introduction to the video. So, do you actually know where the hunt took place and how that is? Was it around here?
Well, it's obviously difficult to know the exact location, being as when it was. But as far as we know, the actual hunt where King Alexander III was saved actually happened over towards the west coast of Scotland, over towards Skye kind of area. And the lands that were granted to Colin of Kintail were in that area. He then obviously became a very successful clan leader of the time, which led into the Mackenzie clan. They're his ancestors, and they were very successful and had lands stretching from the west coast of Scotland to the east coast of Scotland, where we are now.
Okay.
The current clan seat, the Mackenzie clan, is at Castle Loud, which is in Strathpeffer, which is it's only about 15 miles away here from the distillery. And obviously the clan Mackenzie and the Mackenzie brothers were based there at the time when they took the distillery on in the 1800s.
Ah, okay.
So that's how it's linked across. So it's pretty much a direct line from here straight across to the west, to be honest.
So it was actually, I think back in the days there was more going on with islands and coastlines and stuff.
Exactly. Well, you said King Alexander III. I'm not sure exactly how many kings were around back then. If it was just one, or if you were the chief of an island, you could probably call yourself king. So.
Oh yeah, the Lord of the Isles and stuff
yeah,
like
exactly,
that. Yeah,
that kind of thing. So. But it's the link through to the Mackenzies at Castle Loud that brings it to the Dalmore, and which is why we obviously have the 12-pointed stag.
Oh yeah, the 12-pointed stag.
Which leads us to the King Alexander, obviously named after King Alexander III. Now this is the first 6-cask finished whiskey in the world. So it's getting a little bit more complex on that.
6-cask finished. So yeah. It starts off as everyone with every whiskey, like with the bourbon.
It starts off as all of them,
spread out in 6 different kind of casks.
So we start off in the first fill bourbon, and then it goes into 6 different casks. So one of those being specially selected first fill bourbon casks. It continues in some of those. We then have the Methuselah Oloroso sherry, very much like the 18-year-old. We have Madeira wine casks. We have Masala wine casks. We have port pipes, which have held aged port, which we find in some of our other expressions. And we also have Cabernet Sauvignon Barrique barrels as well for red wine.
Oh yeah, I do love the Dalmore port.
We've not got that one here today, but
it's lovely. I've had it a couple of times.
So this one has an influence from each of those casks, which you'll find. And again, on this one, you can still tell it's Dalmore, but you find that there's aspects of each of them. There's a little bit of sweetness from the Masala. There's some, back again, you've got the orange there, but you've got the fruits. You've got that little bit of the red wine. You'll see there's a kind of a tannin from that as well.
That is awesome.
It's one of the ones. It's very difficult to describe while you're nosing it. Richard Patterson can do that because he's a very eloquent man. He's much more so than me, but I'm just the guy who distills it. But it's there. There's so much going on,
and the beauty is it is very complex. If you want to describe that whiskey, it's really hard because it has so many nuances. It just spreads out. Yeah, that 6 casks really do the trick.
They do. They complement each other, and it's a testament to the skill of how we curate the casks through the Dalmore to be able to not have one of those dominate the others and them come harmoniously. Once it's been in all those 6 casks, actually they all come together in a sherry butt to be married together before they go for bottling, so they all get harmonised together in the end. And you'll get that on the palate there. There's a little bit of that sherry, but it's less sherry influence than you would have found, say, in the 18. There's again fruitiness. Again, there's that orange, but there's a freshness as well to King Alexander, but it's not one-dimensional. It's very difficult to describe because you've got that many flavours going on in there that it's a stunning whiskey. It's a beautiful thing, but it's one of those ones that you wouldn't just sip it and go, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones to sit and savour and think about and actually enjoy.
I love it that you have so much wood going on in your production. Very traditional. You have the wooden wash bags. You even have the wooden wash charger. I love it.
Indeed, yeah. It's a very strange thing. The tradition in Scotch whisky making, and here at Dalmore, we don't throw away a tradition if it works. But that being said, this was the most modern distillery in the world when it was built. So we don't shy away from modern advances to make things better. So for example, we were talking there about water reduction. We're using modern technology so that we don't impact our environment. But we're still using the traditional practice, because why would you change a wooden wash charger when it works?
I've actually heard that the what do you call it, the wooden wash bags, they are more insulating than the new.
They do. The temperature changes outside of the wash bag compared to the inside. You do get a much more insulation. Plus, it's a sustainable material.
Oh yeah,
which is always a good thing.
Oh, I love it. That was a really nice tasting, and I love the Dalmore whiskies. They're just They're just great, and there are more out there with the Portwood and special
yeah, so we have distillery exclusives that come out each year, which are specially selected by Richard. There's the Portwood and the cigar malt, which is obviously cigar malt's designed for when you're having a nice cigar. And so there are others in the principal collection before you get into our more rare and exclusive expressions.
Yeah, there are. I think I've had numerous takes about very expensive Dalmor sold at, was it Sotheby's or was it?
Yeah, recently the latest one is the Dalmor Decades collection. This is a collection of 6 whiskies, specially selected by Richard, that go across the decades, and that sold just recently for a significant sum of money. But these are simply because the Dalmor is very suitable for extended aging, so we have quite a lot of aged stocks of older whiskies, and those older whiskies are rarer, and therefore that's why they go, but they're also stunning.
Just see the, what was it, 69 casks in the warehouse before. They are really, really nice.
Oh, yeah, so, we look after those ones carefully.
Definitely. So, thank you very much for having us, showing us around the distillery. Thank you very much for the tasting.
It's always a pleasure. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks. And thank you very much for watching this video. And if you feel that this video was nice, then feel free to share it with your friends, and see you next time.